All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hot Seat Automotive Podcast. It is your buddy CJ here, and tonight we're talking about all things automotive industry, the car guy hobby, cars, all the things that them real gearheads love talking about. You know this is the place to be for all that real gearhead talk. Listen, guys, welcome back to all my subscribers. You know your buddy CJ loves and appreciates each and every one of you. If you're new, give me a like and subscribe. Around here, listen, we talk about cars. We also talk about music, movies, and all kinds of other cool, fun stuff. But a lot of gearhead content right here on this channel. And guys, we're going to get right into it tonight. The purpose of this episode is very serious. Let me make sure this mic is on. I am going to give you an accelerated Corvette buyer's guide for 2025 and 2026. We're going to get right into it. And your buddy CJ is going to save you a lot of time and research, because all you need to know, forget everything else, is the knowledge I'm about to preach to you about buying a Corvette. Now listen, guys, everything around here on this channel, let's not take it all too seriously. It's all done in a bit of fun, in the spirit of just being car guys and talking about cars. But I am going to give you my candid opinion about the Corvette market, the options available to you as a Corvette buyer, why I think this is the time to buy a Corvette. Now, this episode is for someone who's completely new to Corvettes, or the guy who's been into cars and been into Corvettes for years. Either one, I think, hopefully we'll have some fun tonight, guys, because either you're going to love and appreciate what I'm laying down for you, or you might disagree, and either one is totally cool. But you got to leave me those comments. Let's keep it fun and light and respectful, as we always do around here on the channel. But guys, I would just love to hear from you. And listen, I've been a car guy all my life. We're talking decades. Your buddy CJ. Listen, I've owned a bunch of Corvettes, Mustangs, Challengers, supercars, muscle cars, exotic cars, sports cars. I've owned them all, okay? And I love Corvettes, although I'm not completely obsessed, like where I solely buy Corvettes. I love a lot of cars, but I know a lot about Corvettes. And I don't claim to be like an engineer or an expert mechanic at restoring and refabbing Corvettes. I'm a car guy, okay? I love to drive, check out, and love and enjoy my cars and my hobby, including Corvettes. So as a lifelong car guy, and as your buddy CJ, the real gearhead, together with you, another gearhead, let's get into it. And let me give you the rundown of the C8 line, because there's a lot going on with the C8 model lineup right now and the trim package lineup. Then I'm going to even go further. Not only am I going to break down the C8s for you, telling you everything you need to know about buying a C8 right now, right? I'm going to save you a lot of damn time. I'm going to save you time at the dealership. You should still do your homework, by the way. Feel free to Google all the technical specs and all the details and go to the configurator and have your fun. But I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 key points, in all seriousness, that I want you to consider before buying your first Corvette or before buying your next Corvette out of the C8 line, but also other generations of Corvettes. We're going to talk about the C7, the C6, the C5, 4, 3, 2, all the way back. Okay, and you're going to get it all tonight on this episode. So buckle up, guys. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start with talking about the C8 line. Let's get into it. Guys, C8 Stingray. If you're going to buy a C8, this is your entry point, right? And what I will tell you is, first things first, if you're looking at the C8 line and you're looking for just a fun sports car, the C8 Stingray may be the one to buy. If you don't need ultimate race car, okay? If what you want is something to enjoy in the weekends and maybe do some road trips with, and to get into this hobby, or to take your hobby to the next level with a more modern Corvette, C8 Stingray is all the performance, the features, the luxury you might need. But I'm going to tell you a couple things that are really important. Number one, do not buy this car without the Z51 package. Is this thing on? I know countless guys who will say, don't buy a Z51. You can get a wing and a chin spoiler much cheaper on the aftermarket. Guys, I have heard that a lot over the years, and it's like so annoying. Let me tell you something. If you're going to buy a Stingray, do it right. Z51 package comes with, yes, the rear spoiler, and there's a couple options on that. I tend to like the Z51 spoiler. The high spoiler is too high, and I'm not a huge fan of the low profile. You also get that chin spoiler. You get upgraded brakes. You get an upgraded rear diff. But the number one most important thing you must know with the Z51 package is you get the sport exhaust. Do not buy a C8 Stingray without the sport exhaust. You will not be happy. I know countless guys who have not followed my advice on this, and they end up saying, CJ, you were right. This exhaust is too chill, and they end up going with some damn aftermarket exhaust, which, newsflash, does not sound as good as Chevrolet's factory sport exhaust. I'm telling you right now, C8 Stingray is a perfectly balanced sports car that you can get a lot of enjoyment out of, and that Z51 package with the sport exhaust, buy that. Buy that. It's good for resale. It comes with a lot. Don't be a cheapskate. If you're already spending $50, $60, $70, $80,000 on a used C8 or even a new one, Stingray, the Z51 is an important package. Beyond that, I will tell you, you probably do not want a 1LT. There's 1LT, 2LT, 3LT option packages. I owned a C8 Stingray 1LT. It was the first one I owned, and I enjoyed that car, but little things annoyed me, and little things are big things. Like, it doesn't have the rearview mirror with the camera in it. Okay, so there's a blind spot issue with this car. Didn't have the blind spot detection. It doesn't have memory seats. You know, like if my wife was going to drive the car, she got to readjust her seats, and then I got to do the same. Get the 2LT at a minimum. So get the Z51, trust me, and get the 2LT option package. It's going to be, it's going to give you more creature comforts, and you're going to enjoy the car more. Beyond that, listen, you have a lot of options with C8 Stingrays. They're all fantastic, but I want you to enjoy this car to the max. And by the way, C8 Stingray, a great way to get into the hobby with a car you can use and drive and enjoy, and it's quick and it's fast and it's got creature comforts. It's every bit the rear mid-engine performance sports car. They're just great cars, and they're really well balanced. C8 Stingray. All right, guys, let's keep going. I'm going to show you guys the next C8, the C8 E-Ray. This is the oddball of the C8 Corvette lineup. Hear me out. I'm not hating on it. Many people will say, well, CJ, in lieu of a Grand Sport, there's the C8 E-Ray. Not so much. This is a high-tech, all-wheel drive hybrid Corvette. The first all-wheel drive Corvette, you got the electric drive up front and basically a C8 standard Stingray rear drivetrain. And of course, it's got some updated styling, which I'm not a huge fan of. They have not sold a lot of these, okay? And I know 2024 was the first year, and I think it was like 3% or 3.5%, something like that, of the total Corvette build in production for 2024. I don't know how many they've made in 2025, full transparency, but this is the oddball. And I think this history may not be nice to the C8 E-Ray. The guy who wants this is the guy who wants to be different. And I respect that. And trust me, your buddy CJ can be different. God knows that. But, it's an unusual car. It's not the fastest in the lineup. It's not the most aggressive. It's cool and interesting and innovative and high tech. Again, some will compare it to a Grand Sport. I think what's missing in the lineup is a Grand Sport. Does anybody else agree with me? Where's the C8 Grand Sport? I tell you, I think we need a C8 Grand Sport. That's just your buddy CJ's opinion. It's kind of interesting, guys, let me say this. I think the number one problem with selling and offering the C8 E-Ray is that most guys who want to go upmarket from a Stingray are going to want to go Z06 for a bit more money. And it is more money, okay? But you're going to want to go kind of race car experience, high performance experience with Z06. Most guys will, in my experience. Tell me if you disagree, versus the unusual, high-tech, innovative, all-wheel drive aspect of the C8 E-Ray. That's been my experience. That's my read on the situation. That's not to say these aren't great cars, and I'm not hating on them. They're really cool. But it's the oddball of the lineup. And I predict that history will not be terribly kind to the C8 E-Ray. But you guys tell me what you think. Guys, let's keep going. One of the interesting things is that Chevrolet with the Corvette has sort of taken a page out of Porsche's book with the 911, where you've literally got a 911 for every budget, starting at over $100,000 now, going up to $300,000 for a fully goosed out 911, and it's like it's spanning another price bracket in multiple price brackets. I know, but Corvette is kind of doing the same thing. If your starting point for a brand new C8 is 70 grand, we're going to talk about the ZR1 and the ZR1X that's in the twos. So you're talking about, $250,000 for a Corvette versus 70 grand. Forget about the Stingrays you can get for 50, 60 grand now on the secondary used market. So it's interesting the model they've adopted where you're bridging different income brackets with the Corvette, literally. In the current model year lineup. So it's a really interesting dynamic. But the good news is there's a Corvette for every budget now, okay, in the C8 lineup. Obviously there's an entry point, about 70 grand for a new one. But there truly is a Corvette for a lot of different budgets and income brackets, which is kind of cool. Let's keep going, shall we? Talking about the C8 lineup. Guys, keep leaving me those comments. C8Z06, what does this say about you? This says race car, okay? And this is what I'm talking about when I say the guy who goes upmarket from a Stingray and doesn't mind spending 120, 130K, depending on options, depending on year and mileage, you're going to go for a Z06. Most Corvette guys want the Z06 over an E-Ray. Again, we said the E-Ray is kind of the oddball, all-wheel drive, hybrid drive, like what? And that's cool for some dudes. But if you're into sports cars, if you're into high performance, you want that flat plane crank V8. Be honest. C8Z06 screams, and it's super aggressive, and it's naturally aspirated. What is it? The highest horsepower output from a naturally aspirated V8 ever. And it's just a beast. And it takes your Stingray experience into the fourth dimension. I don't think the E-Ray does that. It's just different. Okay? So your Stingray says race car. Okay? And it's wild. The C8Z06 is a wild experience. And if you haven't driven one, you should. And if you drive one, I've said this before, you're going to want one. Okay? So now, again, the only issue is you're talking about breaking into a whole nother area of the stratosphere, so to speak, around price point. We're into six-figure cars now. But guys, let's keep going. Let me know what you think about the C8Z06. Did I get that right? Okay. Guys, next in the lineup is Corvette entering what can only be called the American supercar market. So here we are. Listen, C8, ZR1, and ZR1X, we're talking about the American supercar market. Let's be blunt. With the advent of cars like the C8, ZR1, and ZR1X, Mustang GTD, you have Detroit, the American manufacturers, really getting into supercar-like performance and attributes, for a different market, and as an option to Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, let's say. Okay. Now, having said that, there's a few things. First of all, I'm not even talking about the Mustang GTD because I'm just not a huge fan for various reasons. I have other episodes on that, even though I almost bought one, but it didn't happen. Another story. But in all seriousness, guys, the issue with the C8 ZR1, you've got to be a $200,000 to $300,000 guy, right? On a car, on a toy, right? To even be in the market for one of these. set aside the fact that they're extremely restricted right now. So you're into $250,000 car territory for a C8 ZR1 or ZR1X. Forget about it. Guys, the average Corvette guy can't afford this car. Let's be blunt. And I'm not saying that to make you feel any type of way, but a lot of guys who really want a C8 ZR1 or ZR1X are going to be priced out of it. So it's, even though some of you guys will immediately jump me in the comments and say, CJ, it's the best deal. Compare it to a Ferrari. Compare it to the price of a Lamborghini or a McLaren. Yes, price point wise, C8 ZR1, ZR1X is good performance to value. You're never going to get one at MSRP in the near term. Most people won't. You'd be very lucky to get one. Lucky to buy a $250,000 car, right? These things are going to be trading above MSRP for a long time. That's my prediction, for quite some time. But listen, your average Corvette buyer is just not going to be able to get one. They're not going to be able to afford one. Okay, so again, similar to the Porsche 911 model, your guy that's going to be in the market for a Carrera or Carrera S is not going to be able to afford a GT3 RS or a Turbo S or a GT2 RS. Okay, that's just the reality of the situation. If you're familiar with the Porsche 911 lineup, the same model now applies to the Corvettes with the advent of ZR1 and ZR1X. This is a super premium car, super high performance, but also at a super premium price. No, it's not a $600,000 car, but you're talking about a $250,000 car, MSRP. After options, forget about dealer markups. So what this says is you've made it. You've made it in life if you're out there, and God bless you, buying a ZR1 or ZR1X. But in all seriousness, guys, this is for the dude who has to have the ultimate Corvette. I do think they're going to be highly constrained, and if you can get one, and if you've got the financial resources to get one, be a heck of an experience. But we'll see what happens with the ZR1, ZR1X. But I'll tell you right now, you're not going to be able to just call your dealership, reserve one, and snag one. It's probably going to be a bit of who you know, that type of thing. And then if you want to get one secondary market, get out the checkbook. But guys, that's the C8 lineup. I would say this is a good time to buy. There's a lot of them out there. I think they made, I think 2023 was a big year. It was like 50,000 Corvettes were made. 2024, it came down a bit. I think low 42,000, 44,000. But the good news is there's a lot of C8s out there in every trim package right now. And with the market generally being kind of soft for Corvettes, and as always has been the case, saturated with Corvettes, with the exception of COVID and certain other weird areas throughout history, there's a lot of used Corvettes out there, a lot of used C8s. So follow my rules, though. Listen, follow my guidance, particularly if you're buying a Stingray or a Z06, or before buying an E-Ray. And by the way, everything I said about option packages certainly applies to the E-Ray and the Z06. You don't want base options. Take it from me. I've owned so many cars over the years, including Corvettes, and you're going to miss like the 2LZ or the 2LT option package on a Z06 or Stingray, respectively, are going to make a big difference for you. Even if you say, well, it's still the same drivetrain and all those things. Yeah, but trust me, dudes, don't go cheap on things like options. People text me and call me all the time asking me for advice on buying cars, right? And they know I'm going to give it to them straight. And, listen, I'll tell you like it is. I'm usually right about these things, and I'm right from experience, and mistakes I've made over the years and just lessons learned that, things like the Z51 package and your other option packages, 2LZ, 2LT, trust me, these are things that are going to make a big difference in your ownership experience. But guys, we're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. We are going to keep going and talk about other Corvettes, okay? Just very quickly, kind of rapid fire style. I want to talk about other Corvettes that you might consider buying and have a little bit of fun and talk about what it says about you as a car guy and as a Corvette buyer. Come on, let's have some fun. All right. So, C7 Corvette buyer, what does this say about you? Typically, your C7 Corvette buyer in 2025 is someone who's kind of hanging on to that front engine, rear wheel drive, big long hood out front. And it's hard to argue. The C7 is the last of the front engine Corvettes, right? And it's got all the high tech, all the innovation of, the 2000 teens going into it. And they're just super well balanced, awesome performance cars. And you can get them out there in any trim, from Stingray to Grand Sport to Z06 to ZR1. They're all out there for you. But most guys that I talk to, and I talk to everybody, your buddy CJ, I got a lot of friends in this hobby and in this industry. Most guys who, are, just hardcore into C7s or want a C7 believe that was the ultimate, if they're not a C8 guy. Like if they can't get over the styling of the C8 and they don't want a rear mid-engine car, they're probably hung up on that C7. And listen, hard to argue. If that's your jam, you want that big nose out front with that big V8 in the rear drive. Come on. Hard to argue with that. But that's your typical C7 buyer. And there's a lot of great options out there right now if you want to snag one. Guys, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And let's take a look at the C6. C6 Corvette buyer, what does that say about you? Listen, most guys I know who are really into the C6s kind of see this as the last great Corvette. That's kind of the bridge to the old school era, bringing it up into the modern era. So C6 Corvette is viewed by many, maybe even subconsciously, as the bridge. It still has those curvy, kind of sleek lines. It still has roundish taillights. I didn't say round, I said roundish, and these cars are affordable and attainable, right? And they respond very well to upgrades, which makes them highly desirable to a lot of car guys and enthusiasts. And listen, there are many who would argue that this is the used Corvette you want to buy. And listen, in my opinion, they're all great. Whether it's the base coupe or the Grand Sport, ZR1, Zeos, whatever you end up buying, there's not a bad C6 is the way I look at it. And listen, there's umpteen options. If I was buying a C6 right now, I would probably go with the Grand Sport. I'll be honest with you. I just think these cars are ideal in Grand Sport trim. And listen, you can still get a manual in a C6. A lot of people love that about the car. So, guys, you tell me what you think about C6 platform. This car, to me, says you're a guy who likes to bridge the gap between the retro aspects of the Corvette, sleek lines, but bring it up into the edge of the modern era, really. That's what the C6 is all about. Come on, let's keep going. Listen, C5 Corvette is for the guy who has to have the pop-up headlights, right? But is not a huge fan of the C4. C5 was an innovative car when it came out in 1997, okay? This car had the head-up display. This car had that sleek styling that to many of us looked, this didn't look like a Corvette to many of us when it came out. This looked like more of a Ferrari. I mean, it was shocking, right? Now, these cars, in my opinion, have not aged real well. Okay? I'm just saying. I'd rather have a C6 than a C5 any day. But having said that, there are merits to this car. You do get, you're kind of on the outer edge of the modern era. C4s are really showing their age. If you get in a C4 Corvette, it's going to feel dated. C5 is at least going to make you feel like, oh, okay. Like, this kind of sort of feels like, feels like a late 90s car, right? As opposed to something that came out of the early 80s, which is a C4. They're very chill cars in my experience, even in like Z06 trim, it's from another era. I mean, some of these cars are 25 years plus old now, right? And it shows. It shows in the styling. It shows in the performance. But listen, if you like that late 90s Corvette General Motors car thing with pop-up headlights, C5 Corvette, could be the one for you. But there's better options out there, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. C4 Corvette. Now, I've said this before, guys. C4 Corvette gets way too much hate. And listen, I claim this car is a lot cooler than most people give credit for. C4 Corvette is the king of the car show when you open that hood and the whole front end and the fenders fold up, exposing the suspension and that big V8, L98, or whatever you got under the hood of yours. That's a showstopper. That's still the coolest thing after all these years. Plus, you got pop-up headlights. Now the bad news. The interiors on these cars have not held up well over time. The performance is mediocre, but listen, if you just want to get in something that's going to feel special and feel like a Corvette at a price point that you can afford, right? Just being really candid with you, C4 Corvette is a great way to enter this hobby. Sometimes these Corvettes can get shade from the car community and the Corvette community, which I think is nonsense. I think these are very cool cars, indicative of the era. You are immediately a part of the RAD aspect of this hobby. And if you don't know what RAD is, Google it, because before you buy a C4, you should know that, because you will immediately be embraced by the RAD community. And it's a whole other vibe, a whole other thing. But a lot of Corvette guys throw shade on the C4. I do not. I just think there's, again, better options, kind of like the C5. I'd take a C5 probably over a C4, maybe. It's close. But if you want to get into the modern era, at least go for a C6 is my strong recommendation. It's just a more, if it's something you want to actually drive with regularity, get a C6 at a minimum. If you're just going to be a weekend cruiser and go to Cars and Coffee, listen, whatever floats your boat. And you can snag some of these C4s at a great price point, and you're in. You're a part of the hobby. Things to know about the C4 Corvette. Let me know what you guys think. C3 Corvette gets you into the classic era, really. This to me, and I've said it before on other episodes, this to me, with that sleek Mako Shark Stingray, right? Profile with that hood and those lines. It's so 70s, even though it came out in the late 60s, I know. But, listen, it just screams classic era. It screams 70s. Now, the guy who wants this car, what does it say about you? You're hanging on to that 70s era. Disco music, all those things coming out of the 70s, classic rock. And this was the Corvette of the 70s. Say what you will. I mean, they made them all the way up until the 80s. So this Corvette had a very long run. And value will vary wildly based on drivetrain, options, that type of thing. An earlier one, like a 454 or something like that, give me a break, worth big bucks, versus some of the last ones, like an 80 or 81. Not a lot of those were worth a lot of money anymore. And listen, you can snag them. Having said that, the Plastic Fantastic, as it's known, if you have a car that needs a bunch of work, you can very easily end up upside down in one of these cars. Would be my advice to you, is to not get into one of these without being eyes wide open, kind of like a C4 Corvette. If the car needs work, I don't know if you'll ever get your money out. Because while, yes, this is a classic, the demand for these in the classic market isn't like what it is for a C2 or a C1 that we're going to talk about in a moment. But what does this car say about you? You're old school. You're old school. And the cool thing is, a lot of people will give you the thumbs up and will really love on this car because it represents, an era 50 years ago, right? I mean, we're talking about half a century ago in that classic era, that muscle car era. And this was a heck of a sports car. And you can have a lot of fun cruising in one of these, although they're not great to drive. These, in my opinion, they're not terribly comfortable. They're not really great to drive, but maybe that's not why you buy it, guys. Let me know what you think about the C3 Corvette. Okay, guys, speaking of the classic era, C2 or C1 Corvette, class never goes out of style, okay? These are generally collector's grade cars, talking about the C2 Corvette, like this one pictured here, or the C1 Corvette, first generation. I'm going to lump them together and say, if you're a true classic car guy or a collector car guy, you love that vintage 60s era, okay, going all the way back to when the Corvette was conceived, going back to the 50s, right? This is probably the Corvette for you. And these cars are boomerific. You know, the boomer generation, much love and respect. This was your Corvette for many of you. And this may be the Corvette that you enjoy today and or want today. That's not to say that some of the younger cats aren't into these, but most younger cats are not into these. That's just been my experience. These cars are beautiful. I was thinking about snagging one myself. Again, the practicality, the drivability, this is really a car show car. Like, people do cruise around in them and maybe even do some road trips in them, but probably not what you're going to do with a C2 or C1 Corvette. They're kind of rough around the edges, right? Unless you get a resto mod. But again, you buy this car, you know you're getting something that was designed in the 50s and 60s, right? And, it's a classic collector grade car now. And if you're into that and that's your thing, or maybe you want a restoration project, or you want to get into trading classic cars, you could consider a C2 Corvette or maybe even a C1. But I claim if you want something you can actually drive, you got to go up a few decades, right? For something that you can really road trip, take to the grocery store, etc. C2 is the wrong one for that. But let me know what you guys think. So guys, that's about it out of me. I wanted to come on here and kind of talk about the Corvette lineup, the current C8 lineup, as well as every generation of Corvette. And I don't want to spend all night talking to you about this in an exhaustive manner, because hello, how boring would that be? But in all seriousness, you can do your research, right? And your technical specs and pricing and all those other things. I just want to give you a couple of nuggets on each Corvette, in my view and in my experience. But more importantly, did I get it right? Do you guys agree with me? You can disagree, but you got to leave me those comments. Or if you agree, let's keep it friendly, fun, and cordial, as we always do, respectful. Guys, leave me those comments. Give me a like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Hot Seat Gearheads. I love to hear from you. Listen, guys, until I see you on the next one, take care of yourself, be safe, and peace.